Do you have an early memory of sound that moved you? Something that got you into this in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the memory that actually comes to me almost immediately is one that quite literally did move me and the house that I grew up in. So my dad was a bass player in a classic rock band in the '70s, and he didn't really, continue through playing, after that period of his life, in the '80s, like still loved music, worked, in music adjacent entertainment spaces throughout the '90s and 2000s. But he had a couple pieces of gear, like an old jazz bass and a few of the amps that he played back then that he hung on to that mostly just collected dust for those decades. But when I came along and got to an age where I could ask questions and be curious about it, would open that up. And I distinctly remember the first time that it was actually a 215 speaker cabinet and an Ampeg B25. I don't know how deep the gear heads are in your audience, but it's a pretty sizable amp and cab and pretty powerful as such. Pretty common bass amp and guitar rig from that era. And I was like, Dad, can we plug this in? He's like, honestly, I don't even know if it still works, but I guess we can try. We did. And boy, did it still work, because I remember like one open note, and the volume was dimed, and we didn't realize because the volume knob was actually broken off. So you couldn't tell where it was stuck at.
Dialed to 11. There we go.
Right. Totally. Right. We're pushing some SPLs there. So much so that, the whole house shook. It was an older house. The window sills rattled. This was actually up in the attic, so it wasn't even like down in the basement with the concrete floor. So it shook, and it literally, probably scared the crap out of me at the time. But I think I was also like, wait a second, this is what you did, So I just didn't stand a chance after that, and I found my own way, playing around with that. I eventually took to guitar, and even though I think he knew, maybe against his better judgment at sometimes, what potentially could lie ahead for me in that business, good, bad, and ugly, I think he still knew. He's like, he can't, in good conscience, try to steer me away from that. He just had to let it happen. And luckily, I think for myself and for him, it worked out okay.